Ladies and gentlemen, the Philippine National Anthem. Good morning. May I ask everyone to settle down as we will begin with the 2021 Annual Stockholders Meeting of Xurpas Inc. in a few minutes. Before we begin, I would like to introduce the following officers of Xurpas Inc. Nico Jose S. Noliedo, Chairman of the Board. Alexander D. Corpus, President, Chief Finance Officer, and Chief Information Officer. Fernando Jude F. Garcia, Director, Treasurer, and Chief Technology Officer. And Mark S. Goriseta, Corporate Secretary, Chief Legal Officer, and Chief Compliance Officer. We would also like to acknowledge the presence of the following directors of Xurpas Inc. Wilfredo O. Racaza, Director. Mercedita S. Noliedo, Director. Jonathan Gerard A. Gurango, Independent Director. Imelda C. Tiongzon, Independent Director. And Bartolome S. Silayan Jr., Independent Director. The representatives of CSIP Gores Velayo and Company, the company's external auditor, are also present this morning. The agenda for today's meeting are flashed on your screen. The President of Xurpas Inc., Mr. Alexander D. Corpus, will now preside.
Welcome to the 2021 Annual Stockholders Meeting of Xurpas Inc. Over the past year, the country has been faced with a lot of challenges due to COVID. Every 2 weeks or so, we wait for news on type of restriction our city will be placed under. Today, as we hold this meeting, the National Capital Region is back to enhanced community quarantine due to the continued rise in COVID-19 cases. With this, I would like to thank everyone for attending this virtual meeting. I hope that you are all safe and coping with the current situation. I wish to inform everyone that we will be recording this meeting. The recording of this meeting will be posted in the company's website. The minutes of the meeting will also be made available in the company's website within 7 days from today. This meeting is called to order. Mr. Corporate Secretary, have all the notices for this meeting been sent? Do we have a quorum for the transaction of business at today's stockholders meeting?
Mr. Chairman, notice of the time, date, mode of conduct, and purpose of this meeting were sent or made available through delivery by courier to stockholders of record, a disclosure via the PSE Edge portal, and the company's website. The stockholders were notified of the meeting in accordance with the bylaws and applicable rules of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Furthermore, I certified that stockholders owning at least 57.46% of the total outstanding shares as of June 30, 2021 are present via remote communication or through proxy. Therefore, there's a quorum for the meeting.
Before moving to the first item in the agenda, I would like to request our Corporate Secretary, Attorney Mark S. Goriseta, to explain the rules of conduct and voting procedure to facilitate the orderly flow of our meeting.
The following is the procedure for discussion and voting. Questions and comments may be sent prior to or during the meeting at corpsec@xurpas.com and shall be limited only to the items in the agenda. Questions or comments will be read aloud and addressed during the question and answer period, which shall take place after all matters for approval have been discussed. The company will only read questions and comments which are relevant to the agenda. Management will reply by electronic mail to questions and comments not taken up during the meeting. Each shareholder was given an opportunity to cast their votes by submitting their ballots via the online registration link circulated by the company. Stockholders may also participate in the voting by submitting a proxy. As disclosed in the company's definitive information statement, the deadline for the submission of ballots and or proxies was August 4, 2021 at 5 p.m. The company has already tabulated all votes last August 6, 2021. We assume that all participants of this meeting have already submitted their votes or proxies when they registered online. Each outstanding share of stock entitles the registered stockholder to one vote. For the election of directors, stockholders may vote such number of shares for as many persons as there are directors to be elected, or may accumulate said shares and give one candidate as many votes as the number of directors to be elected multiplied by the number of his shares shall equal, or distribute them on the same principle among as many candidates as he or she shall see fit. The candidates receiving the highest votes will be declared elected. The affirmative vote of at least majority of those present in this meeting will be needed to approve each resolution. The voting process was also explained in our bylaws and the information statement circulated by email and made available through the PSE Edge portal and the company's website.
There being a quorum and having settled the guidelines for discussion and voting, we shall proceed with the first item in the agenda, which is the approval of the minutes of the stockholders' meeting held on November 27, 2020.
Mr. Chairman, the number of stockholders present and the list of directors and officers who attended the 2020 annual stockholders meeting are flashed on your screen. I will now discuss the procedure for discussion and voting observed in the said meeting. Stockholders had the opportunity to email their questions and comments to corpsec@xurpas.com. Questions and comments were then read aloud and addressed during the question and answer period, which took place after all matters for approvals have been approved and discussed. The company only read questions and comments that were relevant to the agenda of the said meeting. A record of the questions asked and answers given have been provided to the stockholders via Annex A of the definitive information statement. Each stockholder was given an opportunity to cast their votes by submitting their ballots or proxy via the online registration link circulated by the company. The deadline for the submission of the ballots and or proxies for said meeting was on November 20, 2020. Each outstanding share of stock entitled the registered stockholder to one vote. For the election of independent directors, stockholders were allowed to accumulate their votes, and the candidates receiving the highest votes will be declared elected. The affirmative vote of at least a majority of the issued and outstanding capital stock entitled to vote and represented during the meeting will be needed to approve each resolution. The matters approved during the 2020 annual stockholders meeting are currently flashed on your screen. The voting results is also flashed for your reference. Mr. Chairman, copies of the minutes of the stockholders meeting last November 27, 2020 were uploaded in the company's website. The minutes were also attached as one of the annexes to the definitive information statement, which was delivered to stockholders of record via courier and accessible through the company's website and PSE Edge portal.
Thank you for the discussion, Attorney Goriseta. The resolution for approval of the stockholders is flashed on the screen. May I now ask the Corporate Secretary to report the results of voting?
Stockholders holding at least 99.97% of those present in this meeting approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Given this, I hereby certify the stockholders' approval on the minutes of the meeting held on November 27, 2020.
The next item in the agenda is the message from the Chairman of the Board of Directors, Mr. Nico Jose S. Noliedo. The Chairman of the Board of Directors will now give his message.
Hi everyone. So 2021, 2020 to 2021, we've seen the COVID pandemic continue to impact the Philippine economy in a substantial way, which has really brought about what we would call multiple digital shifts in our economy as a result. The first digital shift we're seeing is really the highly engaged Filipino online user. So for many years, Philippines was already known as the social media capital of the world, even pre-COVID. COVID only accelerated this level of engagement that Filipinos have with their digital devices, where their amount of time spent per day on in front of a digital screen and on the internet has substantially increased. And you're seeing that engagement continue to increase as more and more professionals and students do work from home and learn from home activities as well. Businesses in turn are also being forced to move online as a result. A lot of them are experiencing massive challenges. A number of brands have actually closed shop. It's been a very difficult time. And it makes sense that where the market moves, which is the internet, is where businesses move as well to address and reach out to their customers. And you're seeing a lot of corporations being forced to really adjust to this. So not just SMEs, but big corporations as well. Some have been very successful. So for example, GCash, based on their press releases, are saying that they're on pace to hit up to 2 trillion pesos worth of transactions this year. Jollibee is in a rush to build cloud kitchens to offset dine-in restrictions in their stores and increase sales. And the C family of the SM Group actually created a venture fund to invest in fast-growing startups, not just in the Philippines, but in Southeast Asia as well. You're seeing a lot of brands that have been that were born purely on the internet. So brands such as Elana become what you call digital native vertical brands. So DNVB is a consumer brand that really started online, and management controls the entire customer experience from factory directly to the consumer. So that end-to-end approach where they become really a brand that lives on the internet is a trend that's been very successful and very popular in other markets, but is now coming to the Philippines as you're seeing a number of brands sprout up across multiple categories, services and products here in the Philippines. In fact, one that has been extremely successful is called Colorette, where the founder actually posted on TikTok that during one of those big sales days in Lazada and Shopee, she was able to garner up to 32,800 orders in just 35 minutes, just to show you the level of success some of these brands are able to generate by really leveraging off online tools. You're also seeing a shift in commerce. So we're moving towards what we call 3.0 version of commerce, where 1.0 version was really retail commerce as we're very familiar with. You go into a mall, you buy your products, you shop online. Then you're seeing, you saw the rise of big box e-commerce marketplaces like Lazada and Shopee. You tend to buy a lot of durables and they come to you in 2 days or more. And now there's a shift towards what you call on-demand e-commerce. So that's brands like GrabFood, GrabMart, PandaMart, Food Panda have become very successful in this space. And structurally, e-commerce 3.0 or third generation commerce, you're seeing a lot of new innovations and changes in the space. So you're seeing less than 1 hour delivery time. So food has become a very popular category here. The logistics infrastructure is very different. It's no longer big warehouses with big trucks. It's two-wheeled vehicles picking up from a dark kitchen or a dark store and bringing it in a very short span of time to people within a certain periphery. And it's really very consumables driven, where speed is of the essence. So you're really seeing this shift happen, where a completely different category of products have become very popular in this e-commerce 3.0. You're also seeing the rise of solo entrepreneurs, where because a lot of people have lost their jobs, people have innovated in ways of trying to find a way to create personal income for themselves. So a lot of people volunteer to be Grab food delivery men, angkas riders. Some have become very innovative. They've created their own YouTube channels. They become key opinion leaders, KOLs, influencers, and found innovative ways to generate income for themselves, and not necessarily through traditional employment as we're more familiar with. And the number of tools, picks and shovels have sprouted up to service that next generation of workers, these gig economy workers. One interesting, very recent new shift is what you call the play-to-earn economy, made possible by the upsurge in prices of cryptocurrency really in the last 9 months, 8 to 9 months or so, where a game called Axie Infinity has captured the imagination and the entrepreneurial ingenuity of a number of our Filipinos who've really played this game, earned cryptocurrency, and are able to change it into pesos, where they actually are able to earn a decent livelihood by doing this. Some have been able to save enough, and they posted it on social media to actually invest in their own tricycle, whereas others have taken it the extra mile and have actually been able to purchase a couple of homes really from their play to earn income and earnings. So at Xurpas, we continued the process of really rebuilding our business, leveraging off the trends that we see, as well as the opportunities brought about by digital services. But at the same time, we're continuing to work with the regulators to finalize the transaction which we disclosed, which is the acquisition of Wavemaker USA. On the enterprise side, which has really leveraged off relationships with different brands, corporations, SMEs, we've seen a growth in our first half of revenue by up to 21%. In fact, in Q2, that growth has even been much more staggering at 96%. And the growth really comes from companies who want to avail of our staff augmentation and custom software development services, for them to accelerate their own digital transformation initiatives. One of our companies called Altitude Games has secured a number of development contracts with foreign game development publishers, as well as actually spun off a company called Playcheck Games, which is our own play on play to earn, this play to earn move where Playcheck Games is a blockchain game studio that actually builds play-to-earn games. Our first game already has some traction and it's called Battle Racers. Micro Benefits continues to make progress as well. It's established a partnership with the RBA, which is the Responsible Business Alliance, a US-based group, where we're developing tech and tools for them. Micro Benefits has had a very good past 12 months and is really looking to grow the platform and find product market fit. Storm Benefits has rebranded and upgraded its current system. So there's a lot more flexibility now where we're not just able to service very, very large corporations with tons of employees. We're able to onboard as well smaller SMEs to avail of the various benefits in our marketplace. All Care has actually substantially grown. It's grown 10x from 2019 to the close of 2020. With very, very little cash in its balance sheet, it's also been able to grow its cash position. Total membership, lifetime memberships has increased substantially. And I think most interestingly, it's actually had zero churn in terms of its membership as we went from 2020 to 2021, which shows how sticky their service is and how much product fit All Care has. And All Care continues to innovate by launching several new products outside of their core membership. As mentioned earlier, we continue to engage with the regulators for Wavemaker, where we're continuing to be very excited about this opportunity and what Wavemaker brings to Xurpas. And we're hoping for positive updates that we can reveal to our shareholders in the coming weeks and months. So there, thank you.
The next item in the agenda is the annual report of the President. Please allow me to discuss. In 2020, with the COVID-19 pandemic as a backdrop, Xurpas was able to generate almost the same as pre-pandemic 2019 revenue level, not including Yondu. After a second quarter dip in revenues as a result of the pandemic, steady growth in the revenues of the enterprise segment and Storm was seen in the quarters that followed. There was heavier reliance on digital marketing to promote our services. Xurpas increased business and identified opportunities with companies and LGUs wanting to embark on digital transformation or those with projects requiring augmentation of their IT staff. At this point, I will now discuss the 2020 financial performance. Xurpas ended with 174 million peso revenue in 2020, an 82% drop in revenues from the 972 million in 2019. Note that up to September 2019, revenues of Yondu were still recorded. Excluding Yondu, revenues decreased by 5% year-on-year from 183 million in 2019 to 174 million pesos in 2020. Analyzing further, the 82% decrease in revenue, this is mostly due to Yondu not being part of the group anymore. Thus, the decrease of 90% in the enterprise business. Business for 2020 was mainly custom software development, but staff augmentation remained to be a growing business. Without Yondu, the enterprise business actually increased 34%, from 66 million in 2019 to 88 million in 2020. We see a 10% increase in the mobile consumer business, mostly from digital marketing/digital rewards. We also see the Storm business deteriorating by 34% for the period, mostly from the lower sale of goods as affected by the pandemic. The bright note here is the growth in revenues of its subsidiary called AllCare, which offers HMO and other pre-need employee benefits to small teams and freelancers. This product has become essential because of the growing gig economy sector comprised by these freelancers, whose situation was brought about by the pandemic. Net loss of 69 million pesos is a 97% improvement from the 2.6 billion loss of the previous year. At this point, I would like to discuss the company's financial performance for the first quarter of 2021. Xurpas ended with a 40 million revenue in the first quarter of 2021, which is a 16% drop in revenues from the 47 million pesos in first quarter of 2020. Analyzing further the 16% decrease in revenue, this is mostly due to the slow start of the enterprise business, mainly the software development business, which decreased 47% versus same period as last year. Although the growth in the staff augmentation business was sustained. Storm's revenues increased by 3% from 20.9 million pesos in the first quarter of 2020 to 21.57 million pesos in first quarter of 2021. Noteworthy here is that the subsidiary AllCare has managed to sustain its improving traction. And the remaining small volume business under mobile consumer increased from less than 1 million in the first quarter of 2020 to 4.8 million in the first quarter of 2021. The net loss of 17 million for the first quarter is a 19% improvement from the 21 million loss of the first quarter the previous year. Moving forward, Xurpas will continue to take advantage of the opportunities brought about by the increase in digital services demand by the private and government sectors. Xurpas will maintain its focus on 1. Staff augmentation enterprise business, and 2. AllCare spearheading the growth. We will continue to tap other markets for both staff augmentation and custom development. That's my report. Thank you. We will now discuss the corporation's dividend policy. As you may know, the company has not declared dividends since 2018. Considering the challenges faced by the company in recent years, Xurpas cannot provide assurance on when it will declare and pay dividends. In making a decision to declare dividends, the board will consider various factors, including the corporation's cash, gearing, return on equity, and retained earnings, the results of its operations, or the corporation's financial condition at the end of the year, and such other factors as the board may deem appropriate. The corporation's board may at any time modify such dividend payout ratio depending on the results of operations and future projects and plans of the corporation. However, management is doing its best to improve the corporation's financial performance to be able to increase shareholder value and accordingly declare dividends. The company has amended its related party transactions policy in 2019 to comply with SEC Memorandum Circular Number 10, Series of 2019. The group, in the normal course of business, has transactions with the related parties such as service and licensing agreements, always at arm's length and taking into consideration the best interests of the corporation. All related party transactions are made at terms and prices agreed upon by the parties. Flashed on your screen are some of the related party transactions for 2020. A detailed discussion of all other related party transactions entered into can be found in the definitive information statement and the company's 2020 audited financial statements. We note that except for matters discussed, there are no other director disclosures on self-dealings and related party transactions. Given the need to operate in a sustainable manner, the company has become conscious of activities within the organizations that have economic, environmental, and social impacts. The material topics included in the sustainability report are limited to the operational matters that have direct and significant effect to the company's sustainability and the interests of its identified stakeholders, such as shareholders, employees, customers, and suppliers. As an information technology or IT company, Xurpas' main contribution to sustainability is the provision of digital transformation through our technical capabilities. As an IT company, the effects of its operations mainly affect the economic and social aspects of sustainability. The company's sustainability report was attached to the company's annual report and can be accessed through PSE Edge or the company's website. The board is responsible for the company's risk management and internal control system and for reviewing its adequacy and integrity. In establishment and reviewing the risk management and internal control system, the directors consider the materiality of relevant risks, the likelihood of losses to be incurred, and the cost of control. The purpose of this risk management and internal control system is to manage and minimize rather than eliminate the risk of failure to achieve the company's objectives. There is no assurance against risk of material losses. The board conducts a periodic review of the effectiveness of risk management and internal control processes. The board is of the view that there is adequate risk management and internal control system in place. I would also like to take this opportunity to inform you that the following matters were discussed in the definitive information statement that is posted in the PSE Edge and Xurpas' website. Material information on the current stockholders and their voting rights, detailed discussion on the company's performance, financial report for the preceding year, director disclosures on self-dealings and related party transactions, profile of directors nominated, attendance report for the company's directors, appraisal reports for the member of the board, a report on the annual compensation of directors, as well as aggregate compensation of the President, Chief Executive Officer, and the company's top 4 most highly compensated officers. The resolution for approval of the shareholders is flashed on the screen. May I now ask the Corporate Secretary to report the results of the voting?
Stockholders holding at least 99.97% of those present in this meeting approved the annual report and 2020 audited financial statements. Given this, I hereby certify the stockholders' approval on the annual report and the 2020 annual audited financial statements.
The next item in the agenda is the election of the members of the Board of Directors and independent directors for the ensuing year. Our Corporate Secretary will explain the nomination process.
The company's nomination committee pre-screened and accepted the nominations for the following directors: Nico Jose S. Noliedo, Alexander D. Corpus, Fernando Jude F. Garcia, Wilfredo O. Racaza, Attorney Mercedita S. Noliedo, Jonathan Gerard A. Gorango, Independent Director, Imelda C. Chongson, Independent Director, Bartolome S. Silayan Jr., independent director. All nominees possessed all the qualifications and none of the disqualifications under the corporation's bylaws and manual on corporate governance and are eligible to be nominated and elected as directors of the corporation. The qualifications of the directors and the independent directors are also provided in the information statement, which was disclosed through the PSE Edge portal and posted on the company's website. The qualifications of the nominees are also flashed on the screen for your reference. For directors' compensation, directors receive a standard per diem of 20,000 pesos for every meeting attended, while the chairman is entitled to a per diem of 25,000 pesos for every meeting attended. Non-executive directors have no compensation aside from their per diem, while directors who hold executive positions receive compensation in addition to their per diem. The compensation of the directors and the top 5 compensated officers are also flashed on your screen. Flashed on the screen is the attendance of all the nominated directors for all the meetings held in 2020. Kindly note that Ms. Imelda C. Chongson and Mr. Bartolome S. Silayan Jr. were appointed as independent directors on May 7, 2020.
Thank you, Attorney Guriceta, for the discussion. We now move to the results of the elections. The resolution for approval of the stockholders is flashed on the screen. May I now ask the Corporate Secretary to report the results of the elections.
Based on tabulation of votes, each of the 8 nominees have garnered at least 99.97% votes from those present in this meeting. Given this, I hereby certify that each nominee has received enough votes for election to the board.
Thank you. The election of the directors for the ensuing year has been approved. On behalf of the elected directors, I thank you for your continued trust and support. Moving on, the next item in the agenda is the appointment of the corporation's external auditor. The audit committee has evaluated the performance of the corporation's current external auditor, Sisip Gores Velayo and Company, which has been the corporation's external auditor since 2008. Since 2017, the audit partner for the group is Mr. Dolmar Montañez. Based on the recommendations of the audit committee, the board has agreed to endorse the appointment of Sisip Gores Velayo and Company, or SGV, as the external auditor of the corporation for the current fiscal year for an audit fee of 2.57 million. Representatives of SGV are also present in this meeting should there be any questions from the stockholders. The resolution for approval of the stockholders is flashed on the screen. May I now ask the Corporate Secretary to report the results of the voting.
Stockholders holding at least 99.98% of those present in this meeting approved the appointment of Sisip Gores Velayo & Co. as the external auditor of the corporation for the current fiscal year for an estimated audit fee of 2,570,000 pesos. Given this, I hereby certify the stockholders' approval on the appointment of Sisip Gores Velayo & Company as the external auditor of the corporation for the current fiscal year.
The next item in the agenda is the ratification of all previous acts of the directors and management from October 6, 2020 until June 16, 2021. These are attached in the information statement and disclosed in the PSE Edge portal and posted on the company's website. All items approved by the directors for this period are flashed on the screen for your reference. The resolution for approval of the stockholders is flashed on the screen. May I now ask the Corporate Secretary to report the results of the voting?
Stockholders holding at least 99.97% of those present in this meeting ratified all previous acts of the board and management from October 6, 2020 to June 16, 2021. Given this, I hereby certify the stockholders' ratification of all previous acts of the directors and management for the said period.
Considering that there are no other matters that require consideration by the stockholders, we will now proceed to answer questions raised by the stockholders. The company will only read the questions and comments which are relevant to the agenda. Management will reply by email to questions and comments not taken up during the meeting.
The first question that we received from a shareholder. What is the status of the Wavemaker transaction and what is causing the delay? When do we expect the lifting of the trading suspension on Xurpas? May we request Mr. Xurpas to answer the question, please?
We continue to work with our regulators at the PSC and SEC to get approval for the proposed transaction. We wish we could expedite the necessary approvals, but we also understand that the regulators are simply doing their job and we have to go through the process. Although Wavemaker's business model is very similar to a lot of venture capital structures, we understand that this type of business may be new to the regulators. As such, the SEC and PSC are very careful in ensuring that they are able to adopt the measures needed to sufficiently protect the public or the minority shareholders. We wish to inform you that the company submitted all information that they have requested, and we continue to work with them in the hope that we can close the deal, as we firmly believe it will be in the best interest of all the stakeholders.
We proceed with the next question. What are Xurpas's immediate plans to improve its financial condition?
Well, the company is organically rebuilding its way back towards profitability by focusing on its enterprise business, especially IT staff augmentation and custom software development. We're seeing increased demand of such services, and I believe this is reflected in the narrowing of our loss in our financials. We also see potential for serving clients in overseas markets, which we are pursuing. Of course, we expect our financial condition to improve even further once the Wavemaker transaction is completed, as Xurpas would benefit from the management fees and the carried interest, which would flow directly to the company's bottom line.
We proceed with the next question. At the start of the pandemic, technology was widely adopted and there was a surge in demand for technology products and services. What's the current state of the tech industry and how is Xurpas utilizing the current demand for tech companies?
As mentioned in the presentations, there is a strong demand for IT services across multiple industries and in both the private and public sectors. These represent opportunities for the company, which we are actively pursuing.
We proceed with the last question. When do we expect the lifting of the trading suspension on Xurpas?
As mentioned in my answer to the first question, the lifting of the trading suspension is still being reviewed by the regulators. We are working closely with them on this. Rest assured that we are fully cooperating with them and will of course comply with any request that they may have so that the situation may be resolved. We are also internally discussing our options, taking into account the continued trading suspension faced by the company. Rest assured that the board is alarmed with the length of the suspension and that we are carefully reviewing our options to be able to move forward.
Due to insufficient time, the company will not be able to read and address all questions and/or comments during this meeting. Management will reply by email to questions and comments not taken up during the meeting.
There being no other matters to discuss, the 2021 Annual Stockholders Meeting is hereby adjourned. We thank you again for making time to attend the stockholders meeting of Xurpas Inc. Thank you.
This concludes our meeting. Stockholders who have additional questions may send an email to corsect@xurpas.com. Thank you for attending the 2021 Annual Stockholders Meeting of Xurpas.